to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Hi, I'm Tracy Stuckrath, founder of Thrive Meetings and Events, and this new podcast called Eating at a Meeting. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here. For more than a decade now, I've been helping thousands of meeting planners and organizations across the globe create memories with the food and beverage they serve by learning how and why to provide safe and inclusive meals. You may ask me how I got into this. Well, in 2003, I got diagnosed with a food allergy, and that really rocked my world. I was a meeting planner doing 100 events a year, planning them for thousands of people, and I couldn't eat at any of those events, or it was really hard. And then the events that I attended, I couldn't eat. And in 2009, I ended up taking a health coaching program, and I was sitting in Lincoln Center listening to individuals talk about vegan and vegetarian and omnivores and carnivores and Ayurvedic. And I said to myself, I need to start a business that educates my industry, the meetings and events industry, on how to feed me and the 1,500 other people in the room that were there wanting to eat better and learn how to eat better. A year later, that dream came true when I started Thrive Meetings and Events. And I've been talking about food and beverage ever since. I am not a dietitian. I am not a doctor. I am a person who has to eat a specific way so that I don't get sick. And there are a lot of people out there just like me. In fact, there are 32 million Americans with food allergies. And that doesn't even cover the number of people across the globe, which is about 240 million people. Then you've got individuals who eat vegan or vegetarian or paleo. They may be doing it for religious reasons, but they may be also doing it for environmental reasons or personal preference, or they actually may be doing it for medical reasons. Then you've got religious individuals who follow religious-based diets. They can't eat shellfish or they can't eat pork. And there are certain times of the year and certain times of the day they can and cannot eat certain foods or food at all. They're fasting. And then you've got those individuals who have other medical conditions like celiac disease or fibromyalgia or even cancer, or they're pregnant. Everybody eats for a different reason, but we all have to eat. Across the globe, everybody eats, or hopefully they do, 3 meals a day. Food, it nourishes us. It feeds our soul. It's our one universal experience that we all share, because we all have to eat to survive. But we may eat differently and for different reasons. People in India eat different food than those in Australia, and the Indians eat with their fingers. The Chinese eat a lot of foods for texture and not the taste. Think squid and pig ears and things like that. Vegans don't eat meat, chicken, pork, or fish, but those on a paleo diet do. Depending on where you're in the US, you might eat a sub, a hoagie, a po' boy, a grinder, or a hero. They're all long sandwiches, but everybody eats them. Jewish and halal followers don't eat pork, but I know people who cannot go a day without bacon. And some people eat certain types of food because it makes them feel like they're a better person or they have a higher status. But for others, eating is a pure necessity. Some people have a hard time even getting food, access to the food that they need to survive. And then think about the visually impaired or someone who is in a wheelchair or has a broken arm. When they're going through a buffet, all three of them need assistance going through that buffet. So no matter how, what, where, or why we eat, it shouldn't matter. And that's why I started eating at a meeting. And for the purposes of this podcast, as we go forward, the word meeting can actually mean a gathering, a convention, dinner at your grandmother's house. It can mean a food festival. It can mean any kind of event that there's food. And there's a lot of food around. Think about how we comfort each other with food when someone dies. People's freezers get stocked up with food for days while they are mourning their loved ones. Or, when we have a birthday party, there's always cake and there's always some kind of snacks. But we have to take better thought, or we have to think better about what we're doing. Actually, we need to rethink the food that we're serving and how we're serving it. You have to take into consideration the attendees that are there. Are they vegan? Are they Jewish? Are they visually impaired? How do we make sure that they actually have access to the food that we're providing? And what if there's actually shaved hazelnuts on the dessert? Somebody with a nut allergy can't have that. And I don't want this podcast to seem, hey, this is what we have to feed all of these different people and we have to make 5 zillion different plates. The purpose of eating at a meeting is to educate you and me on different ways that people eat around the world and why they eat, and how chefs and farmers and servers and get work and what the joy they get out of that. The food system is very diverse and it's very intertwined. It affects a variety of different people in a variety of different ways. And we have to rethink what that means when we're putting food on a plate. And there's a lot of conversation out there about food waste. And we don't want to talk about food waste. Food waste doesn't sound good. We want to talk about how we can provide access to everyone who has and needs food. So when I interview people on this podcast, and that's my goal, is to interview people, they're going to be from all walks of life. They're going to be chefs. They're going to be doctors who are focused on food allergies. They're going to be farmers who started their farm because they found out they can only eat heirloom varietals of fruits and vegetables. They are going to be food allergy moms who are just trying to make sure their kid doesn't die from eating something at a birthday party. And then we're going to talk about sustainability and ensuring that everyone has access to the food, not just from overproducing and overserving, but how can we cut our numbers? The mission of eating at a meeting is to share authentic stories that illustrate the financial, social, emotional, and mental impact food and beverage can have on individuals, organizations, and the earth. I want to explore how food and beverage affects experiences and your bottom line. I want to understand how duty of care envelops food safety and inclusion. How do you, as the meeting organizer and the one ordering the food, have a responsibility to make sure that that food is safe and that everybody at the table has something to eat, is included in that meal? I want to gather and share insight on how those with food allergies or dietary needs can eat confidently at a meeting. I want to advocate for and educate others on the sustainable food and beverage practices. And I want to reveal how the food supply impacts everyone, from the farmer to the eater and everyone else. The last 4 months when I decided to start this podcast, we've been going through COVID. And the one thing that resonates for me throughout this entire process is not only are we trying to protect the people from getting COVID, but we're trying to feed people. People have lost their jobs. They're unable to purchase food that they need to sustain their families and themselves. And so there's been a big push about food and beverage and making sure everybody's got a meal. That's what Eating a Meeting is about, to make sure that everybody has a meal. So I hope you join me each week as I talk to food and beverage experts, from farmers to chefs, sommeliers to doctors, eaters to lawyers, organizers to servers, who are leading the way on ensuring that everyone that gathers around them or gathers with them has a meal that's safe and makes them feel included. My feeling is that every guest matters and every meal matters. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.